So one thing that surprises me a lot is just how readily available Amazon Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power articles are, considering that the show is basically done and over with at this point, and we have like another 2 years or so before the next season, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Like people are gonna forget about the show so much to the point where even if it does have any sort of fans, I highly doubt they're gonna be super excited for a season two. But that's neither here nor there. It's amazing how many articles there are still available for the Rings of Power, one of which has to do with Amazon Studios executive, which just recently admitted that the company literally is completely ignoring fan feedback, even though they said that they were going to embrace it. Now, what they actually meant was that the fan feedback they were going to embrace was fan feedback that they were going to generate themselves. It's kind of like when you have an issue within the police department and they say that they investigated themselves and they found no problems. This is basically the same exact thing. So we're going to get into the article, guys. This one from good old bounding into comics. It says Amazon Studios executive admits that the company is still being intentionally deaf about fan feedback for The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. It says Amazon Studios executive Vernon Sanders, who is the head of global television, recently admitted that the company is still completely ignoring fan feedback surrounding The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. Speaking with comicbook.com, Sanders first admitted that the company conducted their own study to try and determine how people reacted to the show. Why would you do your own study? Like, I think that's just the funniest thing to me. What is wrong with you? Why would you do the only reason why you would do your own study is because you know any other study outside of your own is going to be trashing your show. You just know it. They can try to deny it all they want, but at the end of the day, it's so easy to see through exactly what's going on with the Rings of Power. They completely overstepped. They really thought that they can spend $1 billion on 2 seasons of this show and people were just going to eat it up because they threw a ton of money at what, CGI? They definitely did not throw a ton of money at the actors because it's been proven that they're paid barely anything in comparison to the production budget, and they definitely didn't throw the money at the costumes, at the actual set pieces. They might have thrown the money at the CGI because the CGI was very good, but other than that, I don't know where this $1 billion went, to be honest with you. So it says he relayed, we set up our own study with thousands of people, among them thousands of the Lord of the Rings fans, to really have a conversation with them as each episode dropped to just understand how they were reacting. We were doing as much of a 360 comprehensive look to really understand it. And I think we got those Lord of the Rings fans, both fans and of the books and of the movies, he claimed. You know what? I highly doubt that you did. I highly doubt that you did. And if you did get fans, they were probably the ones that were willing to be bought out because there was a lot of YouTubers during the whole Rings of Power debacle that came out to be ultimate shills. And they were exposed to be ultimate shills. They took a payday and they basically changed their entire ideology around the show the moment they were paid by Amazon to go view the show with an all inclusive trip, hotel, food, gift bags, everything of the sort. They were proven to be mega shills. So those people were probably the people who you were including in this 360 comprehensive look that you supposedly say that you did. It says Sanders then admitted, we also know that there were some fans who had issues or didn't feel like this was what they were expecting or done in the way that they expected. And that's natural. Well, don't you mean everybody? It's like everybody was trashing this show because of those particular things. They always try to make that number seem smaller than it actually is. The amount of people that had a problem with this show, they try to make it seem like it's so much smaller than it really is, but the fan feedback is massive. Like the people hated this show. It says, I think whenever you take something on that's so beloved, you're going to have probably a strong reaction for and have some people who just aren't on board. It's not some people, it's a lot of people. Don't try to downplay it, and nobody believed this nonsense that they're trying to pull with the downplaying. They knew right off the bat that they were going to piss off a ton of people. And I would even dare say that that was probably their goal in the beginning. The only thing is, they probably didn't realize how far it was going to go. Most of the time, when they do this whole fan baiting thing, it usually doesn't lead to such a massive backlash like that. However, Rings of Power was a backlash that we never saw equaled. I can't even remember, maybe Star Wars, but that backlash for Rings of Power was huge, and it just was getting worse and worse with every episode release until it eventually culminated in the final episode in season one. So honestly, I don't know if we're gonna see that kind of backlash again. I don't think there's going to be that much rage for the second season, like compared to the first. But I could be wrong. I mean, people really hate when they mess with Tolkien stuff. It says he didn't go into any other details, but Amazon Studios and Prime Video embarrassed themselves when they claimed to have brought a number of the Lord of the Rings superfans to a special screening of the show's trailer in Mallorca. Remember those superfans? Where did they go? Like, I remember doing a video on those superfans, and they never. Like, I don't even know. Don't quote me on this. I'm not sure if they actually did. Up until now, but I remember a few months ago when I did a video on them, they never actually even made content on the Rings of Power. Those supposed super fans admitted to watching the House of the Dragon over Rings of Power. How bad can you be? I mean, that is terrible. That is terrible. And then you want to still claim that those people are super fans? Really? They're not super fans of the Rings of Power. That's for sure. They might be super fans of the original Lord of the Rings, which I highly doubt anyway. But if you want to sell me on the fact that they're Lord of the Rings super fans, then where are all those super fans for your Rings of Power show? Where are they? They disappeared completely. Whenever they're asked about it, they say they made up some excuse as to why they didn't watch the show yet. It was so stupid. I can't believe they're still going with those superfans things. It says these superfans didn't seem at all interested in the Lord of the Rings when they cut a number of promotional videos attempting to promote the show. Rather, they put the focus on identity politics instead, like they always do. One superfan stated that when asked to describe the trailer, I also want to say representative because we're getting like more diversity within the series. Like we're seeing our first black elf, we're seeing the first female dwarf, which was a lie. I'm very looking forward to looking at that. Oh, that's great English right there. Not only were these so-called superfans pushing identity politics rather than discussing Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings, one of them later admitted to not even watching the show. That's amazing. And I believe it was the chick who admitted that she didn't even watch the show. Like this is how are you super fans, man? This is terrible, man. Amazon, you really have to pick better shills. You have to. YouTuber Ryan Kindle discovered that Chanel Williams, one of the so-called superfans, did a video where she revealed she hadn't even watched any of the show. She claimed she was going to binge it once its season ended, but also revealed that she was watching The House of the Dragon weekly. Mind you, oh my god, you can't even make this shit up. Mind you, The Rings of Power, okay, wasn't even a show that was in the binge model, okay? It was doing the weekly model. So just like The House of the Dragon that was also doing the weekly model, this supposed Lord of the Rings super fan decided that it was better to watch the weekly show of House of the Dragon than it was to watch the weekly show of The Rings of Power. Can you imagine a bigger insult than that? This person took a payday, went to Amazon's whatever Marloca place, whatever the fuck you want to call it, watched the show for free, got a bunch of swag, shilled for the show online, talked about the talking points they wanted to with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then the moment the cameras were off, went back to basically ignoring the show because they know damn well that they're not interested in this show in the slightest, and they know that Amazon was going to do a terrible job. So it's just funny as hell to me. So if people Amazon used to perform their study or anything like their so-called super fans, they flew into Mallorca to watch the trailer, their study is probably heavily skewed, and some of them might not have even watched the show altogether. However, that wasn't even the biggest reveal that Sanders made. He actually briefly discussed the Charles Vickers Halbrand being revealed as Sauron in the final episode. While discussing Sauron, Sanders made it clear Amazon Studios and Prime Video are not listening to actual fans of J.R.R. Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings, who have made it abundantly clear that the show is terrible, mainly due to the fact that it completely threw Tolkien's writing into the waste bin in favor of modern, woke sensibilities. Sanders said one of the challenges for this show, when you are adapting something, is to tell the story that people are excited to see, but sometimes find ways to surprise them. Sauron, I would argue, the greatest villain of all time, and how do you get to know that in person? How do you get to understand how they work? What are the layers there? And I think because of the way the story was told, and because of the great performances of Charlie Vickers and Morfydd Clark, I think audiences now have an insight whether he fooled them or whether they knew the entire time. There's a much more interpersonal human side of his character, and I'm so excited for people to see Sauron unleashed in season 2, he stated. Except the show butchers the character of Sauron. They don't show his actual fall, his chance at repentance, penance, and obedience, his rejection of it, and then his complete turning into a reincarnation of evil, which Tolkien laid out Sauron's character arc in Letter 131 to Milton Waldman, writing in the Silmarillion and Tales of the First Age, Sauron was a being of Valinor perverted to the service of the enemy and becoming his chief captain and servant. So listen, guys, without getting too deep into it is obvious that this show is going to continue to go to the way of wherever the hell they want to take it to, and it's going to be nothing like the books. It's impossible. I want to throw this out there. It's impossible for it to be like the books, okay? Literally impossible. Even if they wanted it to, okay? Even if they said, you know what, let's be lore accurate, even if they rebooted the show, it's impossible for them to be 100% lore accurate simply for the fact that they don't have the rights to the material to be accurate. They don't have the rights. So until they have the rights, then they can't claim that they're going to be lore accurate. It's literally an impossibility. Not only that, if they're going to continue the season 1 that they have made, then it's impossible. They have completely destroyed the story in every way imaginable. The entire premise of the Rings of Power and how they were forged is completely redone story-wise. So there's not like nothing is what it was in the books and never will be. This show is just made to be made fun of. That's all its purpose is, and that's what we're going to continue to do with the show. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought of today's story, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.